All right, hi everyone. I am the nuclear philosophy bro for the purposes of this video, and I am going to talk about not the new Oppenheimer movie, but the book on which it is, the biography on which it is based, called American Prometheus. And this obviously, I just thought it would be interesting to talk about a few main takeaways from the book since the movie is out. And I haven't seen it yet, but I definitely intend to because I am a huge fan of Christopher Nolan's movies. Anyway, yeah, what the controversial opinion that Oppenheimer has in this book that probably a lot of people, or at least some people, know about already, is that he literally thought nukes would promote peace. Now, later in the book, it seems like later in life he regretted that, and he was fighting against uh, people like J. Edgar Hoover and forget who was the president at the time, but they were trying to ramp up nuclear war and making plans for all-out nuclear war on Japan and Germany and using testing biological weapons on Japanese and German people. And he was against that kind of shit. And but but yeah, I think obviously it's fucking terrible that he did for a long time. Like one of his main inspirations for the Manhattan Project and inventing the atomic bomb was that he literally thought that nukes promote peace because, and listen to this dumb logic. His logic basically was that nukes promote peace because you will see the terrors of a nuclear bomb, and then people will know the terrors of nuclear bomb and the dangers of nuclear war, and that will prevent World War III because people would know that the world would end, which is obviously fucking dumb logic. We could have figured that out without nuclear weapons having to go off and kill like tens of thousands or upwards of maybe 100,000 people. I think it's at least tens of thousands. But don't quote me on that because I haven't checked it recently. Anyway, yeah, like it's fucking ridiculous to think that nukes promote peace. Yeah, uh, let's build this massively chaotic and destructive weapon that the world has never seen before because we'll use it and then that'll prevent war. This radically violent weapon. I mean, like the only reason the Japanese didn't retaliate with their own nukes at the time is because they didn't have any. Like obviously now, if any nuclear country attacks another nuclear country, there's obviously a risk of World War III and the end of the goddamn world, which is why the situation in Russia and the Ukraine is so worrying, right? And basically, Oppenheimer was promoting this shit. So obviously, that's a terrible idea, and nukes are not an act of peace. Now, I know that some historians and some intellectuals have said that the nuclear bombs being used on Nagasaki and Hiroshima were justified, and they actually were an act of peace because the alternative was all sorts of firebombing that was being done on Japan before then, and it was killing tons and tons of people, and perhaps more people would have been killed if the firebombing would have still went on. But that doesn't mean you should create a massively efficient weapon in order to kill tens of thousands of people in order to avoid killing more people with firebombs. You should just like not bomb people, ideally, I would say, and not use nukes and not have the threat of World War III as is happening with with Russia and Ukraine right now. And obviously, nukes do not promote peace. It is an interesting subject, however, I think, as to whether the use of the nuclear bombs were just, and I don't think they were at all. People, if you just take the morality out of it, even obviously it's morally fucking terrible to nuke anyone. Uh, but even if you're just talking about strategy, the strategy for the Axis, the the Americans thought the Japanese were going to keep fighting after Hiroshima and Nagasaki were bombed, because in their culture they just never surrender generally, right? And so there was the American military. I wrote a blog about this a long time ago. They had a whole uh, espionage and kind of like psychological warfare program and full scale boots on the ground invasion plan, even bigger than D-Day. It was called Operation Downfall, for if the Japanese kept fighting. But obviously that didn't happen because they surrendered after the nukes were used. And let me see. Let me see. Oh yeah, another. So the Japanese did surrender, obviously, but there's a lot of the historians disagree about whether they would have surrendered anyway, and some think that they would have surrendered anyway. And also, people list Russia as a reason for why the use of the nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki were a just act. They say because it also stopped Russia from continuing to invade. And no, wait, yeah, it was supposed to be something about preventing preventing Russia from attacking Japan, basically, because they didn't want Russia to attack Japan. But they historians disagree rather, about whether Stalin actually even had plans to to like invade. I think it was maybe even Germany too, to like invade Germany and Japan. So that was one of the justifications for why the nuclear weapons were used. And it's not necessarily the case that more people would have died if the nuclear weapons were not used. You can't measure counterfactuals mathematically like that. And it's it's not necessarily the case that you needed to use the nukes as a deterrent to Russia either. Obviously, they were our allies in World War II anyway. So to me, I think it's debatable whether they were just in terms of strategy, but they were obviously unquestionably morally unjustifiable. And I think that it's like, at the very least, it's morally terrible, morally atrocious, and even strategically questionable, at least, if not completely strategically unnecessary, to have used the atomic bombs in the first place. Anyway, no, nukes do not promote peace. Challenge me in the comments if you disagree with me. But don't be a dick about it. Give me your arguments, and I might have a respectful disagreement with you. And anyway, yeah, let me know your thoughts about Oppenheimer. Please don't put any spoilers in the comments, because I haven't seen it yet and I really want to watch it. And yeah, thanks everyone for watching. I'll make a few more videos on this book, I think. So look forward to those as well. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. A lot of people watch the videos but don't subscribe, so please do so. Click that bell to be notified when I come out with new videos. Check out my last one, which was a clip yesterday from my last video on the Hegelian slash Lacanian slash Marxist philosopher Slavoj Žižek that I made, and it's about him rejecting the idea of God as this ruling father daddy God, and he's not your daddy. um, and then also for my next one, I think I'm going to probably do another clip from my about Derrida being confusing but not evil, with Peter Salmon, who's a guy who wrote a biography about Derrida that I talked to a while ago. So check that out as well. Check out the link for my Patreon also. Of course, link is in the description as always. And most importantly, always remember this: the funk cures all, and groove is in the heart. And I'm sure Oppenheimer is a great movie. The book is pretty interesting, so check that out, because a lot of people haven't read it. And yeah, thanks. Nuclear weapons are bad. All right. Thanks again, everyone, and adios until next time.